from Seattle Coffee Gear, and today I am actually going to show you guys how to make a couple of the syrups that I have done for some of the coffee cocktail videos. So one of them is going to be the Thai spice syrup that I did for the Thai spiced cold brew daiquiri when we did the working from home video. And the other one is the Cascara fig syrup that we did over the holidays for the espresso old fashioned. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So in my pots here, I actually have a cup and a half of water in the big pot because this is where we're going to make the Cascara syrup. And that Cascara kind of soaks up a pretty good amount of water. So I added a little bit of that just to account for the fact that the Cascara and the figs are going to kind of soak some of that up. So it'll get us back to 1 cup. So we're going to start off by making simple syrups. And the water is kind of gently bubbling, but you don't want it to boil. All right. So I've got 1 cup of granulated sugar going into each of these pots. And that's really all it is for simple syrup. So we're essentially making a blank canvas for us to infuse with flavor. So you just want to let the sugar dissolve. And this is not something that you want to walk away from, because at some point, you know, if the water starts boiling too much, it will evaporate and then you'll be left with just the sugar, and that will burn. So, you know, don't walk away from this once you've started it. So I'm just giving this a stir to kind of help the sugar along and help it dissolve. And you want this to be, you know, just below boiling. So you're going to see some bubbles in your pot, but you don't want a rolling boil because then you run the risk of it overheating and, you know, kind of shocking your ingredients and losing the flavor. All right. So while we wait for the heat to come back up, since we dissolved the sugar, I'm just going to kind of show you the ingredients. So these are lime leaves, and they're very, very fragrant. They have like a really nice flavor that sort of like hits you on the back of your mouth and then in the nose. Got a couple of Thai chilies here, and you want to use the dried ones just because they have kind of a kinder, gentler heat. And this is Thai ginger, so it looks different than your regular ginger. It's a lot more woody, it's a lot tougher to cut through. And over here I have some dried figs that I've cut up. I have some Cascara from one of our roasters. So Methodical actually does also sell Cascara, and it's delicious. It is a byproduct of coffee when you sun dry it. So you can actually make a tea out of this, and it's got a kind of fruity, floral, raisiny flavor. Right, so I'm just going to kind of get the oils released in the Thai ginger. I'm gonna cut it into some smaller pieces here. And then you just kind of want to, like, very carefully give it a good whack with the flat of your knife. And that will kind of, you know, wake it up, get those oils released. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these in my pot, along with a good handful of these fresh lime leaves. And depending on the spice level you like, you really don't want to do any more than 2 of these. 2 might even be a bit much, so I'm just going to toss 1 in. Turn up the heat a little bit. And then into this pot, just going to do a couple of scoops of cascara. And I'm going to throw in my figs. And then it's also some cloves, just to kind of round it out, you know. You get a lot of sweet floral notes from the cascara and some sort of dark syrupy notes from the figs. So the clove just kind of adds a nice warmth to it and just ties everything together. So you just want to like add, you know, maybe like a dash or two. Not too much because you don't want the clove to overpower. Just to kind of add some of its fragrance. All right. So now all we're really going to do is we're just going to kind of let everything infuse. It usually takes about 5 minutes, but really it's entirely up to the strength that you want that flavor to kind of permeate the syrup. Alrighty guys, we are back. Our syrups have been infusing for about 5 minutes now. And you want to just kind of taste these periodically just to make sure that you have the desired strength of flavor from each one. So I'm going to go ahead and taste the cascara fig. And the color has changed drastically. It's a very kind of almost, it's like an amber color. Okay, yep. That's really good. You can taste the fig, you can taste the cascara, and then you just get this nice kind of warmth from the cloves. Now I'm going to taste the Thai spiced syrup. I can smell the lime leaves and the Thai ginger just from here. It's really good. And there's just like this nice little bit of bite from the chili in there. And I just use like old mason jars or leftover kombucha bottles, whatever I happen to have on hand to store my syrups. You can keep these in the fridge for up to a month. And you want to make sure that you let them properly cool in whatever glass storage container you have before putting them in the fridge. So you want to let them cool for a few hours. You want them to be completely cool before you store them to prevent bacteria from building up, because nobody likes botulism. All right, so I'm going to start by straining this guy. You can see everything's just kind of changed color. And it's a very kind of pale green. So I'm just going to pour that in here and be very careful. Okay. Now we're going to strain the cascara fig syrup. And those figs in the cascara absorbed quite a bit of the liquid, so even if you kind of like squish some of it out, it's still absorbed quite a bit, which is why I added a little bit of extra water to that pot. Okay, so now you can see it's kind of like, almost looks a bit like maple syrup. I'm just gonna pour this in here. All right, there we have it. We have the Thai spiced simple syrup from the Thai spiced cold brew daiquiri, and we have the Cascara fig syrup from the espresso old fashioned. So, you know, it's pretty simple to make your own syrups at home. You always start off with equal parts sugar and water, and then you just add whatever tickles your fancy to it. But thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.